So I'm going to be really hipster and get a picture of you guys on Instagram. There we go, beautiful. Welcome. Come on, welcome. Hola. Hola. So we're right at the end of the second day. The only thing stopping me from, or only thing stopping you guys from going out and having a coffee and having a break is my presentation. So do me a favor, I want to get a little bit of energy and blood flowing through the room. You've been sitting for an hour now. I want everyone to stand. Like, please, yeah, give me a stand. There we go. Awesome. This is what I love about being the presenter. You've got to do what I say. So we're going to play the country game. I was talking to the organizers, and they said that this is mostly an international conference. As in, like, there's not that many Spanish people here than I maybe would expect. So when I call out a country name, I would like you to yell, hola. I want to get an indication of what's going on there. Oh, I've never been good at spelling. Okay, so I'll start with our home country, of course, the host country. Who here is from Spain? How about Portugal? Oh. Catalonia? Italy? Germany? Netherlands? Russia? The US? Australia? New Zealand. Hola! Is there another New Zealander? Come give me a hug, brother. Okay, and now actually, just because I thought I'd play around with you a bit more, is a song here? Okay, cool. I want to bring the camera on stage. I thought, since I've got a nice kind of round bowl going on here, I'd like to, that was awesome, but let's try a Mexican wave. I'm going to start from this side. Yeah. And when I point, I want to start the Mexican wave. And then I'm going to do it back. Okay? 3, 2, 1, go. And then back, and we're going back. Oh, there we go. Okay. Now you can sit down. So my name's Josh Kalderimis. You can find me on GitHub, you can find me on Twitter, and if you want to be nice and polite, you can call me Mr. Kalderimis. And of course, there's me riding Anthony like a bull. I've contributed to Rails. I used to be 29, but now I've rolled back to 38-ish. I come from this small place called New Zealand. That guy knows. and kind of Australia, they kind of hassle New Zealand for being just a state of Australia, but we're not getting into that. We're known for our hobbits and our orcs and our beautiful cable cars. This is Wellington, where I'm from. Known for its beautiful harbour, its coffee, its plains with awesome wind. I've been on one of these. And on the smaller ones where you can see out the front, you can see the landing strip. That's fine. And then you can see the hill. And then the landing strip. And the hill. I've been living in Amsterdam for the last 3 and a bit years. It's known for its bikes, its architecture, its beautiful nightlife, its beautiful recreational activities. But now I'm a nomad. This is my bag exploded in my hotel room. I travel with a little ukulele. I've learned my first song, Space Oddity by David Bowie. That's about it. I travel with a little coffee grinder and lots of strooped waffles. If you want strooped waffles, come and talk to me. Paolo, I love you. I've got some for you. So today I'm going to be talking about logging and metrics and monitoring. And it's going to be a little bit of theory, a little bit of code, a little bit of our internal tools, and part moustache. But when I was thinking about the talk title, I was having huge difficulty, and I went to this bookstore in Amsterdam. It's called the American Book Center. And I came across this book. It's not how good you are, it's how good you want to be. And the general idea of it is, okay, you can be good, but you need a little bit of drive and passion to get to the next part. And you need to be ready to fail as well. So like you'd have a chapter about fail again, fail better. And we've all seen things like this in our day-to-day jobs as well. It's also the person who doesn't make mistakes is unlikely to make anything. So it's good to do things that are wrong as long as you can learn from it. So I titled my talk, It's Not How Good Your App Is, It's How Good You Want to Be. And the general idea behind it is, your app is not a black box. You deploy a Rails app, and you just sit it on Heroku, and you expect it to work. That's treating it like a black box. If you want to make your app better, you need to know what's going on inside it. You don't want to just look at dumb metrics like, ooh, I did 1 million requests a second. Okay? You want to use a whole range of tools and services that will allow you to get an insight into what's going wrong and what you can do to make it better. And it's also about internal tools. Any good app, any good developer should be looking at how they can build things to gain insight into what's going on. Services are your friends. We use a range of services at Travis, and we wouldn't be able to get to where we are without them. So as I said, I work for a company called Travis CI. We're a distributed continuous integration system for the open source community. Well, we started like that. That was a year ago now. And now we're just hosted continuous integration for everyone. We run open source, we have private and beta. I work with Konstantin and Sven and Matthias. And through a round of donations, we've been able to actually get to where we are. And it's only because of everyone here that we've been able to get to where we are. So thank you. We essentially run your tests for you, because a lot of people can't be bothered running tests. But even better, it's hard to run tests for open source projects. That's how it started. It's free, it's open source, and really Travis is now another piece of infrastructure. It is like builds, or what builds we are for builds, what Ruby Gems is for libraries. We just hit 20,000 projects on Travis the other day. We doubled that in 5 months. We grew 10,000 projects in 5 months, that was just fantastic. We run 8,500 test runs a day just for the open source. We've dealt with 500,000 build requests from GitHub. We've done a total of 1.5 million test runs using virtual machines and individual matrix runs for Postgres, MySQL, and Rails, and etc. We support 11 different languages. And if you ever see this on a README, that's the indication that the project's using us. But the reason I bring Travis into this, because we started it for fun. We built it with this idea of it being instant and live and modern and hackable. We wanted something that, well, Sven started it on this idea that he just wanted to get an insight on what was going on into a CI system. He wanted to be able to hack on it. But little did you know, everyone here in the audience, that Travis united us. It was this blog post. You might not be able to see the date. It's 2011, February the 5th. This moustache, this beautiful moustache, brought us together. And we started talking online. I read that blog post, and I was like, how can I help out Sven? And then we did our first conference together. And he said, I'm going to buy you a shite shirt for your birthday. Beautiful, isn't it? And I said, I'm going to grow a moustache for you, Sven. And then whenever we presented, we looked beautiful. It was great. But there's no more moustache. I've given up the moustache. Instead, though, say hello to the onesie. The developer onesie. Get up in the morning, go straight into coding. It's a little bit warm, but I'm doing it for you. And it does all the way up. So sorry. Okay. So to really understand about what I'm talking about with metrics and monitoring, it's also good to understand where we've come from as Travis, because it's about how we've had to gain insight into our architecture with metrics and monitoring. So if we just look at our basic architecture, this is what it started off at. It's your standard Rails app. We had an app sitting on Heroku. We had a dedicated box that was running the tests using, we were using Rescue at the time. We're using Pusher, Redis, and a database. Quite simple. But when you grow up to 8,500 test runs a day, you need to make sure you can stand that kind of scale. So we built out our infrastructure to be a little bit more distributed. So you can see at the top we've got the Travis listener. It listens for pings from GitHub. GitHub says, build this project. Comes into Travis, goes into Rabbit, and then the hub pops off those requests, and it goes into the client, where it goes into Pusher, into the database, and then the worker will start picking up the jobs. We've got 10 worker boxes that run. I swear I want to poke out my eyes every time I say this. We use VirtualBox on 10 machines as our virtualization platform. That has a lot to be desired in itself, but this has got us a long way. It's a whole range of tools and services, and I think this is the majority of them. We're using JRuby and MRI as well. So we're mixing and matching what we need to use for that particular piece of the architecture. We're kind of like a service-oriented architecture, but we kind of term it mini SOA. We share a lot of our services, and we don't have the full isolation of each app. At the moment, we have 5 deployable apps. We've just added a new one called Travis Logs, which only takes care of log processing. We have 4 different environments to deploy to. We've got Travis CI.org, staging and production, Pro, staging and production, and that gives us 20 different deployments to manage. On top of that, we now need to think about how do we measure and monitor what's going on in each of these apps and consolidate it in such a way that it's easy for us to understand what's going on. But all the more important, did I really get that order right? No, sorry, it should have been all the more important, measuring and monitoring is a challenge. So if you can't solve a problem, it's because you're playing by the rules. Also, I used to play canoe polo. That's a fun fact about me. So we'll talk about logging. Logging is really important, okay? It's really useful. And your standard Rails app in production, this is what it's logging. It's got useful in here, it's just really verbose. What we wanted was just something simple and concise, something easily readable, and one line. That's all you need. So we took this, and we looked at the certain parts, and we broke it down into request type, URL, format, action, status, total duration, view duration, and database duration. Those are the things that are in the standard Rails log. And this is what we came up with. This is all we need. We can see every part of it just on this one line. So although you can't really see this one line, that's all you need on a per request basis, because if you do for the other approach, you've got logs interleaving each other. It's really messy. It's just, are you really going to worry about every partial that's being rendered? So Matthias, when he came on board, he first created this gem so we could use our logging in a useful way. Logging is actually a really important of the app, but you are doing it every day. But what about non-web apps? We use different log levels as well. You should be thinking about the log levels that you use in your app. For example, debug. You've got info and error. Those are the 3 main important ones. You want to debug lots, you want to info a bit, and you want to error exceptions, of course. And you want to log all the things. So if we think about Travis Hub for a second, Travis Hub is our message processing backend. It's built on JRuby, uses RabbitMQ, and Postgres. We're doing about 1,100 requests per minute. We're using New Relic to measure that. And it handles such things as like build finished. So for example, we need to send out notifications when a build is finished. And that is done in a background thread. So this is what the standard logs look like for us when we look at Heroku. We run all of our parts on Heroku. And we can see that it's done in such a way that not only are they single line events, but they are groupable. If you look down here, you'll see that all of the build IDs are the same on the right-hand side. Now we can look at what has happened first off and how they are all cascading and triggering. So if you look at a single line, we've got the information, or we've got the class that is making the notification, the method, and the build. Or in this case, debug or info, class, method with some extra info, and the model and the ID. And for errors, it's just your standard class and error message and stack trace. But the good thing is, now that we can run things like tail on it, and if we do a grep, we only get the things that we want to see. On the Travis worker on the other end, I've been doing a lot of work on that recently. To give a bit of insight, of our 10 dedicated boxes that we run with running VirtualBox on them, each one of them is running 5 virtual machines, which equates to 5 jobs per worker. Each job is run in an isolated container. And the goal is different for the worker, because I want to easily be able to see what's going on. It's not processing 1,000 messages a second, or 1,000 messages a minute in the case of the hub. It's processing 5 jobs at a time. So I want to easily be able to log in and tail those logs and see what's going on. I'd ideally like it to be live as well. So if we look at the logs here, you'll see they're all namespaced in such a way that, again, it's very easy to see what's going on. But of course, we've also taken care to look at the class and the methods that are coming out of it. Now, this is the information stuff. It might be a little bit verbose, but I've gone for extra verbosity in this end so I can see what stage the build is at on that machine. So, although it's a more verbose form of info, you'll see on the left-hand side the Ruby 2 part. That shows what VM it's running on, what thread is currently processing it, and now I can see each of the stages. And I can also tail it, like I was saying. And a simple grep with a nice little regex there just allows me to see the Ruby 2. But we can improve it further. I'd like to consolidate all our logging. That's the next part. So you've got many options for putting all your logs into one area. You could use something like rsync if you're running your own boxes. Maybe you could even... Okay. Maybe you can use Graylog 2, which is a Java and Ruby application, and it uses Elasticsearch. So it'll put all your logs into one area. You can push all your logs either through AMQP or syslog, and now you're just running another piece of service so you can see where all of your logs are. You can also use Papertrail, services like Papertrail, it's just awesome hosted, and it allows you to put all your logs into a website, and you can search and tail. But on top of that, it has things like archiving, notifications, webhooks. So it's got a form of alerting in there. You can say, if you see this message, please send a message to Campfire so I can fix it. We love Papertrail. It's helped us get very far because when you've got a lot of logs going on, putting them into a single area, and especially when we don't have to look after that infrastructure, is a benefit. Also, I used to play Nick Bottom in a Midsummer Night's Dream at high school. Don't worry, high school. So now we're going to talk about exceptions. So logging, this is a normal thing. So how about exceptions? Exceptions is another thing that you should be used to as well. You don't want to check your logs for when an error happens. That is no fun. Instead, we should be looking at using apps or services or libraries. And in this case, we've even got exception notifier. This is an old school way of sending our exceptions to us, and it'll send it via an email. And that will happen on every exception. So if you have 1,000 exceptions in a minute, you get 1,000 emails. There's Airbrake. Oh. There is Airbrake, and Airbrake is a great service. It used to be Hoptoad, run by ThoughtBot. It's also GetExceptionals, they're the same company. And there's also Urbit. Urbit is a Ruby open source error aggregation library, or application. But we use Haystack. And I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but it's actually from the folks at GitHub. They've given us a little bit of extra access to this. And what this allows us to do is see our errors. We run this on Heroku, and on top of that, we get nice, pretty graphs out of it. We don't get alerting in this case, but we kind of treat errors in a different way. So in this case, this is your standard error report. It's called Haystack, as you can see, because of the needles. And you still get the stack trace and other information. It's simple and basic, but it's what we want. we don't see errors as a to-do list. A lot of people, when an error happens, they will run and fix it instantly. Errors are bad, of course, but I see errors as a natural part of your app life cycle. Don't ignore them, of course, but you don't need to panic over them either. The best sort of error notification is actually your customer. You can think of the support emails, the Twitters. Oh, and this is my little sister, Sophie. So errors, well, okay. Errors, we're all used to using, we should be at least, I would hope, used to using applications to hunt down our errors and treat them. But errors are also a form of metrics. So metrics is the big part that I'm really interested in at the moment. Who here uses New Relic? Just show of hands. Beautiful. Like, you get this for free on Heroku. It's a standard add-on if you want to pay for it as well. And you get beautiful graphs and metrics about what's going on with throughput, response times, even errors if you ask for it. The thing that you don't see here, though, well, it's very powerful, but the thing that you don't see here is that this is actually our messaging hub. This is AMQP. So a lot of people are used to using New Relic for web apps only, and that's fine because it plugs in instantly, but you can actually bend New Relic to do some other interesting things for you. And in this case, we can see that on our messaging app, which is AMQP, it's an agent using JRuby, is spending 70% of its time doing log processing. But these are all AMQP subscriptions. So how do you use New Relic for messaging? What we do is we created a little, I guess you could call it class method, macro, that then we note a method as saying that we want to add New Relic messaging to it. What we're actually doing is we're creating a proxy, adding in the controller instrumentation, and then we're tracing it. And then what you get out of that is a very, very powerful tool. So now you're actually tracing and thinking about message processing. A message, if you think about like rescue, you pull off a job and then it takes a period of time to process. We can use that kind of metrics on AMQP as well. And now we get great graphs like this and visualizations where we can see that Postmark took 800 milliseconds to send. We're spending 79 milliseconds in API, and we've also got 1,800 requests to the database. But then we can dig down further and we can look at what's going on with the controllers as well. But when I think of a controller, controllers are what you usually think about with Rails, a standard MVC setup, or what we know as MVC. But a controller can also be something that's just processing a message or a background job as well. So it's not just for web apps, it's really for all apps. I also love popcorn. I feel like we're really getting to know each other now. So if we think about another form of metrics, though, like New Relic is your baby metrics. You turn it on and it does it all. And metrics really are awesome. This is Matthias. He's Roid Rage on Twitter, and he's our Chief Metrics Officer. The thing that he came and brought to the team was a slew of metrics and tools so we can gain insight. And I emailed him yesterday, and I was like, Matthias, how would you define metrics? And he goes, it's to running apps as unit tests are to your code. I go, okay, that's good, that's nice and theoretical, but really what are metrics? And you can think about metrics as representing a part of your app by measuring how long it takes and how often it occurs at any point in time. So for example, a method call. We can see how long a method call took and how many times it was called. I see 4 parts to metrics. We've got collecting, sending, aggregating, and visualization, or visualizing. So if we think about collecting, who here has heard of active support notifications? That's good, but it's about half the audience. Active support notifications is a super powerful tool. Bang. You can think of it as publishing events or instrumenting your code. You can subscribe to this event or instrumentation, And you can subscribe either based on one event type or name, or you can use a regular expression to subscribe to multiple. Now, what you don't know is under the hood of Rails, Rails is using active support notifications to do its logging. That's how it does the consolidated logging. It emits a lot of events from internally in the code, and then it decides how it's going to put them together in a nice way for you to read it, using a log subscriber. So we can publish one-time events. We can say, we sent a campfire notification. Or we can instrument some code by yielding a block and timing it, which it will do automatically for us. But you can also use instrument to publish an event, and it'll give you a little bit of extra info. But in this case, I just say use publish. I definitely recommend, if you have not read this book yet, that you buy it at Pragprog and read it from top to bottom. Jose Valim gives a very good introduction to how to start to build things around active support notifications and also how to really craft Rails to your desire. But I'll talk a little bit about notifications. I'm just going to use ASN for now. It's a lot easier to say. And I'm just going to define a constant. And now I'm going to start publishing. In this case, I've published that I've sent a campfire notification to this URL. Or what I could do is I could use instrument, or even better, I could instrument and then yield the block. It will yield the block, time it, and then send the notification. It's simple and it's quite nice. But what we do is we use it to publish 3 events, which yield us the best metrics that we can get at the moment that's going on internally. We've got received, completed, and failed. So for example, this is it's a contrived example, but what you can see here is that we've got 3 published going on. And although I've got a result, I'm returning a result, that result would be set in the do some processing. So what we do is we publish that we received an event, or received this campfire message. I'm sending a campfire notification. I do the processing, and then we publish that we completed, or if it failed, I publish failed, and then we re-raise the error. So that is a great thing to add, but you're not going to add that all over your code time over time over time. So again, we've used a little bit of meta-programming throughout Travis, and now we can just do something as simple as this. An instrument send message, and now it will wrap that with an alias method and do that internally, and then return the results and publish the messages for us. The good thing about active support notifications is you can start littering your code with all of these notifications, and it won't impact performance, because if there are no subscribers, it just goes into the ether. Nothing will consume it. So what we can then do, well, we're just emitting events. And the good thing is it's metrics agnostic. So the part of where we're going to collect these metrics or these events and start visualizing them, active support notifications doesn't care about that. It just helps you emit. It's really general purpose. And now the good thing is it's all about the subscriber. I really like German food. So if we think about sending and aggregating, for an example, who here has heard of StatsD? Who here is using StatsD on a daily basis? There's about 10 hands up. StatsD is built by Etsy. It's a Node.js project, and it uses UDP. What's really cool about UDP, it's a fire and forget. So now you can start littering your code with fire and forgets, and it's not going to impact on performance. For example, we can go pusher.received, and we can say we received that once. Or it completed, and it took 320 milliseconds. And the cool thing is that we can even test this from the command line. We can just use NC, which is netcat. We can use the server import of our StatsD server, and we can start pushing it messages and test it. You can also use the StatsD Ruby gem internally in your code, and it's pretty much as simple as you could expect, and then you can just go increment and timing. Done. Simple. It's 155 lines of code. It's tiny. It's micro. But we actually use MetricsD, which is created by Eric from Papertrail. It's based on Ruby and Event Machine. And it works in conjunction with the metrics gem. And what we do there is we can create an instance, we can start doing counting. So we go metrics.counter, We'll create a pusher counter, and then we can start incrementing. And we can do timers as well. So the API is a little bit different. And then how this works is it flushes it every X period of seconds. You define that, and in the default case, it's every 60 seconds. So what metrics is actually doing is it's internally caching all of those metrics so it doesn't have to send them as often. And it will do this on a per thread basis, and then it will flush them out every 60 seconds. And the default way it works, because it's part aggregator and part sender, it will actually use a reporter. It's based on this idea of reporters, and it will send it to the logs. So for example, let's create a little subscriber. In this case here, I've just changed the code very slightly. I've created a started at, I instrument with a started at, and then when it finishes, and now here is my little subscriber. As you can see, I'm subscribing with a regex at the top. I'm just saying anything that's a Travis event, I want to listen to. And if you hear of a finish stat within the arguments, then we're going to do a metrics.timer. Otherwise, we'll do a metrics.meter. And the meter is just going to mark it like a counter. It's like the increment. Now what we've got out of this is a range of stats based on how many times maybe a notification was sent, or a part of our code was triggered, or maybe even when a user signed up. And then we can use our logging reporter, the default one, and we'll get this in our logs. Now, it will actually be one big line. This is me trying to format it so it looks nice, but it gives you very detailed reports every 60 seconds. You've got how many times it happened, the 1 minute rate, a minimum, a median, the standard deviation, the 95th percentile. And what you kind of see in the picture is your app is emitting events which go to the collector, and then it comes into your logs. And in our case, it goes to Papertrail. So as a very quick way of getting started, this is great. We get to see it very quickly. It's in our logs. We can see it locally. But what are you going to do after that? We need to start visualizing what we're doing with our metrics. The other part that comes from visualization is also alerting. It's one part that I've left out at this moment because we're still figuring out the best way to do alerting. But I want to look at visualization because this is a very good way to build things like great dashboards. Maybe if you use Graphite. Graphite is a free application that you can run on your own hardware or systems, and you'll get great graphs like this. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but it gives you very detailed reports of what you're sending it in those statistics. The other one is Librato. Librato is a fantastic tool, and it's going to give you beautiful dashboards like this. For us, we use this because it's another thing that we don't have to run. Now what we can do is we can start seeing the HTTP status. You can see that we have little spikes of 500 errors, how many logs are being sent, and over here, how many notifications we're sending, if it be pusher, campfire, webhooks, emails. In fact, the big ones up here, that are all of our push notifications. We send about 10 million push notifications every day. And just as a close-up. But it also allows you to do cool things like embedding them into your campfire chats. This is a new feature that they've brought out, so you can now directly embed the graphs internally for your team, and you can say, hey guys, have you seen the new error rates? Bang. It also allows you now start to seeing interesting things that are going on. For example, this is when we deployed, and then we had a huge error. Every app was down. We fixed it, and then over here, we fixed another one. You can see the greens are all the errors, and then they just go away. So it's great to be able to see this, because you don't see this with Hoptoad. You do kind of see this with Haystack, but now you can start doing this to all of your internal code. Even better is you can start using tools like Teseo. Teseo, the original implementation, which we've got the link here, uses Graphite. But what we've done is we've created a little, I guess you can say, fork of it, and now it works with Librato. And as you can even see, you get to color it when things go bad. And in this case, we have 17,000 or 18,000 rabbit notifications not being sent. You can also see good statistics over time. we've got things from how many jobs are currently in the queue to our current delivery rate. So now you can start visualizing what is going on within your app, and you've got a dashboard for you and your team to use. And then you start seeing the picture of how it all gets put together. You collect metrics, you aggregate and send. We aggregate and send again because Papertrail can't send them directly to Librato, so we've got a little webhook app, and then Librato will do the visualization. But, of course, we can do better with that. That's a little bit complex for a simple job. So this is where MetricsD comes into play, along with the MetricsD reporter. So metrics was the gem which was outputting to the logs, but now we can put MetricsD in the middle. Metrics will send it directly, and now we've got a much simpler flow going on with our metrics that we're sending. I feel like I'm saying metrics every second word. Also, I like to go hunting for crayfish. So if we look at some internal tools that we've built, I'd like to talk about Travis Admin very quickly and even give you a peek into it. Now, Travis Admin was built on Sinatra. It uses Twitter Bootstrap, and it was built by this handsome lad up the front here. And this is kind of what it looks like. This is one of the screens where we can now inspect the service hooks that we've set up for you. So when you set up your application on Travis and you want to start testing an open source project, sometimes the service hooks are not set up correctly. Now, of course, we're not going to ask you for your username and password so we can check it ourselves, but we can actually inspect that screen and make sure everything's right. And as you can see, Sven has set it up for the Travis CI project. It also allows us to check the GitHub token that we're using in our database, so it's just a nice little internal tool for checking what's going on. On top of that, though, we've got what we call the GH console. This is fantastic. So Konstantin built this using his GH gem. The GH gem is actually a simpler wrapper around the GitHub API. And what it allows us to do here is, although you won't be able to see it very well, we can go user repos, and now I can get a list of all of my repos. This is the actual JSON that is returned, and yet it just formats in a nice way. But now we can also see the headers, the body, and the full URL. So on the URL side, you can see, you might not be able to see, but it says per page 100. On the headers part, we've got a rate limit remaining, and we can fully inspect what we're getting back from GitHub. And that is especially handy when we're doing synchronizations. But we've also got the event monitor. The event monitor is a way of trying to unify all of those pieces of the pie into one easily viewable metrics reporter. And in this case, we've got these 4 deployable apps. Drogus, who is Piotr Snarky, and he's done a lot of work on he's done a lot of work for Ember.js and for Rails engines. He helped build the event monitor, which is built on top of Ember.js and along with Redis pub sub. So this is our event monitor. It uses active support notifications heavily, and now what we can do is we can start grouping events. We've got an event list of what's going on within our hub, so you can see an update job, and it's doing the job test start. We've got event grouping, so all of the events that happen within that major job, and then we've also got a payload. So to give you a little demonstration very briefly, I feel like it should be working. Yeah. Oh, wait, here we go. So you can see that the worker is updated. It live updates with all the information, so we can see how many events happened within a job. I'll just make that a little bit bigger. And you can see that this job, and then also some of the events that happened from it, or the payloads. So we can see that this job ran on worker 3. What was the payload? The ID. We did a pusher. It was received and completed successfully. And then it did some extra stuff with notifications. So with Travis instrumentation, which are JSON payloads, you can start hooking it up into other things and internal tools. What we've done around that What we've done with that is build a library called Travis Instrumentation within Travis Support. We use active support notifications, and it's actually available for anyone to have a look at what we've done with it. We are looking at open sourcing the event monitor, but we see it as another piece in the pie of gaining some insight on what's going on within the app. So this is the end of my talk, the last 50 seconds on the dot. That was 319 slides. I hope this gave you a little bit of insight about how you can think about what's going on inside your app a little bit better and how you can make your app better. It's not how good your app is, it's really how good you want it to be. And you only want it to be as good as how much you're monitoring and gaining insight. It's not a black box. Knowledge is power. Don't look at those raw big metrics. Start using libraries and services to help gain insight and visualizations. Internal tools are your best friend. They're going to take a bit of time to build, but they are worth it. Services are your friends again. If you want to ask any questions about Travis or anything that we've talked about, you can find us on Twitter and IRC and on GitHub. If you want a sticker, come get one of us. You're awesome. I love you. Thank you very much.